Hi everyone, welcome to Sweet Pea Sits Inspirations. My name is Sydney and today we are going to learn how to do the braided cables cowl. This is my crocheted version. I do have a knitted version of this cowl if you guys are interested, for all of my knitters out there, which that will be linked down in the description box along with my email. If you need to email me at any given point, feel free to do that. I am here to help you guys with any kind of questions that you may do have. So you can either email me or even ask me down in the comments section if you would like to do that instead. But just a quick outline of how the cowl works up. So first we are going to do a crochet flat with the cables. And then once we get to a certain point, we are going to make 3 individual strands of the same cable pattern that's in the flat. Once we have all 3 of those cable strands worked up, we are going to braid those together, and then we are going to slip stitch at the end to keep all those strands together and in form, and then we are going to just sew up on the sides to the starting point of the flat and the braid itself. Some things that we are going to need for this tutorial is, first off, we are going to start off with some yarn. Now I am using the mainstay that you get from Walmart. I don't really remember the colorway of it, but it's just some type of gray. I am using a worsted weight yarn. You can use whatever kind of yarn that you would like. I do recommend it being a worsted weight. Now you are going to probably need at least a good 500 to 550 yards. I had a half of a skein of this yarn, and then this is what is left over from a full skein. So I'd say about 500 to 550 yards. And then you are also going to need your hook, which I am using a 5mm hook for this tutorial, and this tutorial is going to be in US terms. And then also some scissors to cut your ends, and then a tapestry or darning needle to weave in your ends. And you can either use safety pins or even stitch markers if you would like to. And all we're using these for is at the end for our cable, until we've got this all stitched together. It is just to keep the cables in form. You don't have to use them if you don't like to, but I do recommend using either safety pins or stitch markers. Now you can go ahead and chain up 36 chains, and then we can go ahead and get started on the cowl itself. Before we start on the cabling, we have to do a foundation row. So after you have your 36 chains, we are going to go into the 3rd chain from the hook, and we are going to place a double crochet. Go ahead and place a double crochet in each stitch until you have reached this row, and then we can start on the 4-row repeat for the cabling for the flat. You should now have 35 double crochets. That chain 2 at the beginning of that is going to count as a stitch. So for the 1st row repeat, go ahead and chain 3 and then turn your work. That chain 3 is going to count as a stitch, so that 1st stitch we are going to skip. We are going to go to the 2nd, and we are going to place a double crochet. Now around the next post, we are going to place a treble crochet. So go ahead and wrap your yarn around your hook twice, go into that or underneath that post to where it's a front post, and then work your treble crochet. And we are going to do that for the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. So now you should have 3 front post treble crochets. Now we are going to skip the next 3 posts, so 1, 2, and 3. And in the next 3 posts, we are going to place a front post treble crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Now go back to those 3 posts that we skip, and we are going to place a front post treble crochet in each of those posts. So 1, 2, and 3. So now you should have something that looks like this. You will have 3 front post treble crochets and then a crossover, a left leaning crossover. And now we are going to go into the next 2 stitches and place a double crochet in each. And that is the repeat unit. So again, once more, go into the next 3 posts and place a front post treble crochet in those next 3 stitches. Go ahead and skip the next 3 posts, so 1, 2, and 3. Go into the next 3 posts and place a front post treble crochet in each of the 3 stitches. And then go back to those stitches that we skipped and place a front post treble crochet in each. And then in the next 3 stitches, we are going to, or next 2 stitches, sorry, place a double crochet. And that is the repeat unit. So go ahead and finish up this row. You should leave off with 2 double crochets in the last 2 stitches. Again, the last 2 stitches are going to be a double crochet, and making sure you place that last double crochet at the top of that chain 2 that we made at the beginning of the previous row. And now for the second row repeat, go ahead and chain 2. Again, that is going to count as a stitch. And then go into the next stitch, and we are going to place a half double crochet. Now where these cablings are, where we place the front post treble crochets in the previous round, we are going to do a back post double crochet in each of those. So go ahead and place a back post double crochet in each of those front posts from the previous row. So you should have 9 back post double crochets in total. And once you have gotten all 9 of those back post double crochets, in the next 2 stitches we are going to place a half double crochet. So that is the repeat unit. Again, go ahead and place a back post double crochet in each of those 9 front post double crochets from the previous row. And once you have gotten all 9 of those front or back post double crochets, we are going to place a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So go ahead and do the repeat unit once more, and then we can start on the 3rd row repeat. Your last 2 stitches should be a half double crochet, making sure you don't forget that chain 3 at the beginning of the previous row. So that is the 2nd row repeat. For the 3rd row repeat, to go ahead and chain 3 and turn your work. Skip that very first stitch where that chain 3 does count as a stitch, and place a double crochet into the next stitch. And now you should be able to see how the cabling is starting to form. And we are going to skip these first 3 front post double crochets, and we are going to go to the next 3 front post double crochets, and we are going to place a front post treble in each of those 3 stitches. 2 and 3. We are going to go back to those stitches that we skipped and place a front post treble crochet in each of those 3 stitches, starting with the very far right one. So 1, 2, and 3. So now you should have another crossing going over, and go to the last 3 front post double crochets, and we are going to place a front post treble crochet in each of those 3 stitches. And now you should really start to see that cable form now. You should have a cable that's going in this direction, and then a cable that's going under, and another one that's going back to the left. And now the next 2 stitches, we are going to place a double crochet, making sure you don't miss that very first one. It can look like it's part of the cabling. So that is the repeat unit. Again, this is the 3rd row repeat, and you'll continue working that repeat until you get to the end. Once you have made it to the end, you should have 2 double crochets for your last 2 stitches, and I will work the repeat unit with you once more. So again, we are going to skip these first front post double crochets that we made in the previous row and go to the next 3, and we are going to place a front post treble crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go back to the ones that we just skipped and place a front post treble crochet in each of those 3 stitches. Again, we are working in front of our work. And then the last 3 front post double crochets from the previous row, we are going to place a front post treble into those 3 stitches. And then into the next 2 stitches, you are going to place a double crochet. And go ahead and continue that repeat unit once more, and then I will meet you for the 4th row repeat. And again, your last 2 stitches should be a double crochet, making sure you place that last double crochet in the top of that chain 3 space. And for the 4th row repeat, we are going to chain 2, go ahead and turn your work, and we are going to do the exact same thing that we did for the 2nd row repeat. So starting off, we are going to skip that very first stitch where the chain 2 counts as a half double crochet. In the next stitch, we are going to place a half double crochet and then place a back post double crochet in each of those 9 treble front post crochets that we made at the beginning or in the previous row. So go ahead and place a back post double crochet into those trebles from the previous row. And then in the next 2 stitches, we are going to place a half double crochet in each of those. So go ahead and finish up this row, and then I will give you further instructions how to work up the rest of the flat. Continue working the 4 row repeat for a total of 9 times. So once you count all of your rows, you should have in total 37 rows, because where we have that extra row at the beginning to get the cable started. Now for the next portion of this tutorial is where we are going to start working on the cables themselves individually so that we can have 3 different strands of the cables so we can braid them together. Once we have gotten all 3 of those completed, then we are going to braid them together and then connect them and then sew the braided cables together back to the start of our cowl. So I'm going to go ahead and work up these 3 individual cables, and then I will give you a number real quick of how much you or how many rows you need to do each individual cable for. Each individual strand of the cable is going to have a total of 9 repeats, which is going to equal out to 36 rows. Now when you do first start off the cable, you are going to have to work into one of these middle stitches, which is going to be the closest one to the cable itself. You will have to work into the closest middle stitch to the cable to start and end off the cable. That way when we're working the individual strip itself, we have something to start off with like a chain 3 or a chain 2 depending on which side of your work you're on, and we can double crochet or half double crochet, again which side we are on, so that it's not curling so much and the pattern actually works out as a cable and not just kind of like a floppy mess. So go ahead and do each 3 strands of the cables. Again, that is going to be a total of 9 repeats, which is 36 rows. Now that you are ready to braid your cables, I do want to add in that your strands of cables should not be attached to your ball or skein of yarn. It's just more of a mess that we have to work with. And also, once we get done braiding these cables together, it's not guaranteed that where you have left off at or haven't cut your yarn, if it's still attached to your skein, is going to end up where we need to start our slipping these cables together. So making sure that your skein of yarn is not attached to these strands. Now, if you know how to braid, you can go ahead and skip over this part, but this is for people who may not know how to braid or just want to watch. So we are going to consider the most right strand of cables 1. The center one is going to be 2, and the most left is going to be 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to take number 1 and place it over top of number 2. So now number 1 should be in number 2's place, and number 2 should be in number 1's place. And then now we are going to take number 3 and place it over what is now number 2. So your number 1, where it started all the way over to the right, should now be all the way to the left. And number 3 should be in number 2's spot or in the center part. And then number 2 should be all the way to the right. And so now that is just what we are going to do. Again, we are going to take number 1, place it over number 2, and then take number 3 and place it over number 2. Again, take number 1, place it over number 2, take number 3, place it over number 2. And you would just continue repeating that until you can no longer braid anymore. And once you have gotten to the end, then you might need a stitch marker to keep these together, or a little safety pin, whatever you prefer to use. I'm going to grab one real quick so I can keep these all together. If you would like to adjust your braid a little bit, you can at this present moment. So I will be right back. Once you have your cable placed the way that you would like, whether you're using safety pins or stitch markers, we are going to now slip stitch in each stitch all the way across. And so you will have to start off with the slip knot. So go ahead and slip stitch in each stitch straight across. And I'm going to do that real quick. After you have slip stitch in each stitch to connect our braids together, go ahead and cut your yarn, leaving a long tail so that we can sew the braid to the starting point of our cowl. So go ahead and do that. If you would like to have it a little bit more on the cowl itself, you can do that, or you can just do from edge to edge, whichever you prefer. I'm probably just going to do edge to edge. And it is going to, once you have gotten it all sewn together, it is going to have a V shape. It's going to be a V-shaped cowl. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these 2 pieces together real quick. Once you have gotten those 2 pieces sewn together, all you have to do is weave in your ends, and your finished product should look something similar to this. I want to thank you guys for joining me for the Braided Cables cowl. I hope you guys have enjoyed this design. I absolutely love this design, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time.